A very good afternoon to all of you who are virtually present here. I, Nashra Javed, Organizing Secretary, extend my thanks for joining us in this prestigious international conference on emerging trends in technology and its impact on law. With a vision aligned for professionals and academia, we are making a step forward in achieving and becoming the best by infusing the dexterities of two different disciplines, Faculty of Law and the Department of Computer Application, for organizing this event. Productivity is never an accident, it's always the result of a commitment to excellence, intelligent planning, and focused effort. At Integral University, we always seek opportunities like this to reach new heights. We are putting our best efforts to enhance teaching and learning by experiencing technological add ons, and this pandemic has made us more concerned about upgrading ourselves. Now, I would like to invite Dean Faculty of Doctoral Studies and Research and Dean Faculty of Computer Application, Professor Tius Mani, sir, to address our gathering with his words of wisdom.
Thank you, everybody. Respected Professor Nishtha Jaiswal, Professor Hari Siddiqui Saab, our Dr. Faisal, and Dr. Naseem Saab, Dean, Faculty of Law. It is a pleasure that Faculty of Law and Department of Computer Applications have joined hands and successfully conducted the conference Emerging Trends in Technology and its Impact on Law. No doubt, in the present day fast changing technological complexity in the world, this subject matter is very important and highly relevant. Understanding various aspects of law coupled with modern technology is the need of the day, without which cybersecurity would not have been possible and information technology would not have been reliable. My deep appreciations to Dr. Naseem Ahmed, Dean Faculty of Law, Dr. Muhammad Faisal, HOD Department of Computer Application, and their teams for the successful conduct of this useful program. Surely this conference must have increased the understanding and knowledge level of our students. It will frame the roadmap to successfully implement sustainable infrastructure of ICT and law that will improve our socio-economic status. Once again, hearty congratulations and best wishes for this pleasant occasion which will remain fresh in participants' mind for a long time. Thanks.
Thank you, sir, for your presence and influential message. With your much needed guidance and support, we always strive for excellence. Now, I feel immense pleasure to invite a guest of honor, Registrar Integral University, Professor Muhammad Haris Siddiqui, sir, to address our audience.
Thank you, Nashra. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible, Nashra?
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, Nashra, for inviting me. First and foremost, I would like to thank the organizers, especially the Dean Faculty of Law and the Head Department of Computer Applications, for having given me this opportunity to speak in the valedictory session of the International Conference on Emerging Trends in Technology and its Impact on Law, which is being organized by the Faculty of Law and the Department of Computer Applications. The conference was inaugurated on 29th of March, and today is the plenary session. At the same time, I would like to congratulate the organizers for having come out with certain very fruitful recommendations with a varied diversity of speakers, learned speakers. And at the same time, I welcome the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Himachal Pradesh National Law University, Professor Nishtha Jaiswal, Madam, for having spared time from her busy schedule, and she's here as our chief guest of the validity session. So, without taking any time, I would like to emphasize the power of technology, and especially if I give the example of Integral University or any university across the country or across the world, we adopted the power of information technology by during the COVID pandemic in terms of to completely digitalizing the admission system, completely digitalizing the online application system, integrally connecting through the students through various apps like Google Meet and other kind of online platforms. At the same time, we were also able to conduct proctored examinations. So, with the kind of volume of to cater to in this country, the power of IT, information technology, is tremendous. It has shown a visible change in the field of agriculture science and technology, where the farmers have been directly connected to the scientists and the other stakeholders, and they are getting useful information just on a click of mouse, like eChopal and other platforms. So, similar is the case with the law. We know that the number of judges are very less. We know that the number of cases are too much, and the time schedule to give justice by the judges is not in their hands, particularly in the way that the volume of cases is too much. And meeting physically and dispensing each and every case takes a lot of time. So, with the advent of these new startups, wherein our or many computer science or computer applicant graduates are going for startups developing apps and platforms where they can connect people and they can generate business as well. At the same time, they reduce the time of delivery and other things. I am sure and confident that the outcomes of this particular international conference will pave a way forward for devising a startup or various startups in the field of law, where the litigant and the judge and the advocates can be connected virtually. This is being done, but several other apps can come into play where preliminary cases can be dispensed at the lower level, and then so that in a short span of time, cases of diverse nature can be addressed too, and the power of technology can be utilized in dispensing justice to the victims well in time, so that the outcome of that justice is it can be utilized for the development of our beautiful nation India, which has a diverse population. But yes, anything in India involves the management of the volume of the population, which is being given due consideration. So, wasting any time, we are all waiting to listen to our Honorable Chief Guest, the Vice Chancellor of Himachal Pradesh National Law University. So, with this, I would like to once again congratulate the organizers, especially the Dean Faculty of Law, Dr. Naseem Ahmed, and the Head Department of Computer Application, Dr. Mohammad Faisal, for coming out with a very interesting topic where both of them, they have showed a way ahead in Integral University to come up with a diverse collaboration between computer application and law. And I'm sure that they must be coming up with a small startup where they can give an example or a lead for others to follow. So my heartfelt congratulations to both the organizers, and my sincere gratitude to the Honorable Vice Chancellor for having spared her busy time from her busy schedule. And we are waiting to listen to you, madam. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for motivating us with your kind words and exemplary intellect. You are a true inspiration for all of us. Now, I'm profoundly elated to take an opportunity to introduce our chief guest, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Himachal Pradesh National Law University, Shimla, Professor Nishtha Jaswal. She has accomplished degrees in BA, BA, BL, LLB, LLM, PhD more than 33 years. Ma'am has published more than 56 papers in reputed journals, 25 papers in conference and seminars, and 6 books. Professor Nishtha has also been awarded British Academy Visiting Professorship in 1992, received University, State Government, and National Merit Scholarship, designated as Meher Chand Mahajan Professor of Law by Punjab University, Chandigarh, and awarded MBT Academic Excellence Award in 2019. And also, DAV Educational Managing Committee also conferred her Vishish Samman, the highest award of DAV, in April 2019. Ma'am, you are a woman of distinct vision and a fountainhead of illuminating ideas, an idol of knowledge and experience, and your excellence have made a remarkable milestone with this distinguished work in numerous capacities. I humbly request you to address our gathering and share your valuable knowledge with our participants.
Thank you, Nashra. And I'm really thankful to your esteemed university for inviting me to this valedictory function. Uh, Interesting part of the picture is that I am in the valedictory function without knowing uh, what was deliberated during the technical sessions, but I can have certain presumptions, and I can simply say much water must have flown under the bridges over the topic because the topic is of great importance. We often say those who change after the change, they survive. And those who change with the change, they succeed. But those who bring the change, they lead. So we have to be leaders. And change is the rule of nature. Nature also changes. So with the passage of time as per need, we have to change. In Sanskrit literature, we say, Parivartanamev sthiram asti, which means the only constant is change. But at the same time, you must understand Sarvam parvasham dukkham sarvam atmavasham sukham etat vidyat samasen lakshanam sukh dukhyo, which means everything that is in others' control is painful. All that is in self-control is happiness. And this is the definition of pain and happiness. I understand that we need the support of technology if we have to progress. But if we become just dependent on technology, our self-reliance is affected adversely. As I just quoted the shloka, we might not suffer. So before I start talking about it, we must understand that we have to maintain equilibrium. All of us know that we usher in a welfare state. And in the welfare state, lot of expectations are from the state. And many a time we say that state is welfare state which looks after the citizens from cradle to the grave. And I would just like to refer to Constitution of India. Part 3rd of the Constitution guarantees fundamental rights. The gem of fundamental rights, that is right to life. And today's Supreme Court has given the widest interpretation to the term right to life so as to include any fundamental right you may name. At the same time, to make the life a quality life and to prove that the state is a welfare state, we have a directive principles of state policy, which lay down the guidelines for the state to be followed. And at the same time, I must say it's for good that we have part 4A of the Constitution, fundamental duties, which is added by 42nd Amendment Act 1976, amended by 86th Amendment Act 2002, when initially 10 duties were there, now 11 fundamental duties are there. And for me, most important fundamental duty is to strive towards excellence. And for striving towards excellence, of course, we need technological development. Because with the technological development, all the fields develop, even economy develops. And I can just make a reference to different aspects where the citizens have expectations from the state. We may take a number of issues I may refer to that for becoming a welfare state, there must be good governance. There must be open government. Now, how can there be good governance? All of us know for good governance, number of components are there, like information must be given, transparency must be there, public participation must be there. Now, if I just look at all these, can we fulfill all these aims without technology? It is not possible. Now, if we talk about disclosure information, I can just refer to Right to Information Act of 2005 also, that we have to make proactive disclosure. And for that how to make this proactive disclosure? You can't go to each and every person, such a large population, to disclose something. So we take the support of technology. And what we do in the institutions, we just upload the information on our websites. How websites came into picture? Through technology only. Similarly, when we talk about transparency, information, immediate giving of information, again, the tool is nothing but technology. Or in the modern times, we say use of machines, or we talk about artificial intelligence through computers. And when we talk about public participation, again, public can participate through online mode. It has become so easier. And especially this COVID-19 pandemic crisis taught us to go virtual. And perhaps we could save our precious time. We could help during such time of crisis when there was lockdown. And even when there was no lockdown, still, in order to follow the COVID protocol, this virtual mode came to our rescue. And we could have this virtual mode again through technology. Now, any field we may talk about, like if you say, we have a fundamental right to education, no doubt, primary education. But support can be given even for higher education through technology, through artificial intelligence. Again, I'll say during COVID-19 situation, if had we not been able to get technological support, the precious time of the students would have been wasted. Immediately, we shifted from offline to online. We had our online examination. And all of us are aware of, because we belong to academics, that during this period we had more number of academic programs than we used to have in the offline mode. Because holding virtual conferences, like today, again, we are on the virtual mode, it is cost effective, it is time effective, and we are able to prove Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The whole earth is our family, and we can invite from any nation, from any part of the country, and there can be deliberations. So we are really thankful that we could bring this change, we could develop the technologies, Similarly, if I talk about right to health, right to well-being, satisfaction, happiness, all these, because nowadays, because during even pandemic 19 situation, there were medical consultations online. Now also we have so many technology, and even to make this right to health effective, there must be effective health checkups. Now, these health checkups, these tests, again, are not possible. So many inventions are going on. If we could have this COVID vaccine, this is also the result of science and technology. So, technology again came to our rescue. And at the same time, I can just quote Andrew McAfee and Eric Bridgelofson in their book. I quote, the evidence is overwhelming that whenever the option is available, relying on data and algorithms alone usually leads to better decisions and forecasts than relying on the judgment of even experienced and expert humans. I unquote. We may not exactly and completely agree with this, because till date we talk about that when we sit one to one, we discuss, we deliberate, or in the when we have teacher student sitting one to one in the classroom, that is more effective. But every aspect has the positive as well as negative aspects. And here, of course, we can raise the issues side by side, appreciating it. If I just talk about very important aspect of the welfare state, that is administration of justice. We know that how easy it becomes in investigation, criminal investigation in the commission of crime by the police department through technology. Like so many tests, like even though now the Supreme Court has in the Selvi versus state of Karnataka, Supreme Court has declared that you cannot hold this polygraph b for lie detector tests without special permissions, because these violate the mental privacy as well as Article 20 clause 3, because it compels you to be a witness against yourself. But still we have these modes of investigation, and forensic science always comes to the rescue of the the system, the administration of justice. At the same time, you find on the roadsides certain hoardings displaying the helpline numbers, where the children, the women, they can seek help in case of any crisis, any trouble. Now, this is all possible due to technology. Similarly, I am reminded of one of the decisions of the Supreme Court, Swapnil Tripathi versus Union of India of 2018, where Supreme Court laid down that the proceedings of the Supreme Court will be streamed live. Now, again, now this shows the transparency. This gives information, and this is possible only because of technology. Technology, all of us understand, as I just talked about, regarding that it brings transparency, and then this is cost effective, this is efficient, decision making becomes easier. And you go to any field, whether you talk about accounting, auditing, everything through softwares become easier. Even teaching becomes easier nowadays. What the students do, they have more exposures. They just open the internet and find the complete material, even for research purposes. And research also becomes authentic because of technology, because we have nowadays softwares testing the plagiarism, the similarity index. Now, everywhere, now the feeling is that we are overwhelmed with satisfaction that we have technology to support us, and we can progress with the help of technology. Now, I would like to mention here certain issues which are very, very important, because we have to put it on the balance. This is very important, that really we'll have a transparency, and can we minimize the bias? What will be the impact on privacy of the individuals? I hope I can refresh your minds that after KS Puttaswamy case, Supreme Court has declared that right to life includes this right to privacy, and not only physical privacy, even mental privacy, and at the same time accountability. I must just take a pause and inform here that if we have the authority, we have the power, then this is not absolute. In case any person misuses the power, has to be accountable. And when I just started with that state is a welfare state, then state has to be accountable. Even the Supreme Court has laid down the principle of public accountability. And we have so many instances where the power was misused. Supreme Court fixed their personal liability. Number of situations directing the state to pay compensation to the victim and recover the compensation out of the pockets of the guilty official. Now, all these questions we have to tackle along with many other questions. How far the transparency will be possible? Because when we talk about machine activity or technology or artificial intelligence, it is the how we feed that is very important. And biases is very difficult to dig out bias out of the human mind. I think human mind is going to regulate the technology, the machines, and what will be the extent of bias in that case? That is a big question. And at the same time, because here we will be taking data. Now, data has to be collected for that purpose when we go through technology, machines, robots, artificial learning. Then this issue of already we are just suffering because of this use of data, misuse of data. No protections, no safeguards are there. In India, the data protection bill is still pending, and we have seen the working of European Union general data protection regulations, and we are working on the same line only. And if I talk about the legal safeguards, then we have this Information Technology Act of 2000, but again amended again, but number of issues are still pending, because as we are growing in technology, number of new issues are arising, and the law is not sufficient to deal with all the issues. Now, every day we face some different problem. Now, as commoners, I can say I'm aware of hacking. Hacking can be dealt with. I'm aware of cyber terrorism. I'm aware of this particular, but we go much beyond this when we wholly solely start using the technology. Then another very important factor which has to be taken care of, in fact, that is already such a great percentage of our population is suffering from unemployment. I know Supreme Court declared that right to life includes right to livelihood, but at the same time, Supreme Court talked about in Delhi Development Horticulture Employee Union case that this is not an absolute right. This is subject to economic capacity and economic development of the country. Now, if we are totally depending upon the machines, the technology, then what will be the status of employment? If we talk about 17 sustainable development goals which are to be achieved by 2030, if we just start with this, no poverty, zero hunger. Now, if unemployment is there, then we cannot reach these goals. Poverty will be there. If poverty is there, of course, hunger will be there. And supervisory control is with the human beings. I think this plea can be taken. Supervisory control may be there. In fact, some mockery was made of this system, and it was pointed by someone that ultimately when we'll be dependent on the machines, technology, robots, then the relationship between the robots and the human beings will be the same as human beings and the dogs. We'll become pets of these robots. So we have to take a note of caution over that. And to deal with all these problems, we'll be needing new laws. I can just refer to some US decisions, like in Washington versus Emmanuel Fair in 2018. The defense in a criminal proceeding sought to exclude the results of a genotyping software program that analyzed complex DNA mixtures based on artificial intelligence, while at the same time asking that the source code be disclosed. The court accepted the use of the software and concluded that a number of other states had validated the use of the program without having access to its source code. The only thing is, it is still questionable. Similarly, in 2017, in the US only, state versus Loomis, the Wisconsin Supreme Court held that a trial judge's use of an algorithmic risk assessment software in sentencing did not violate the accused due process rights, even though the methodology used to produce the assessment was neither disclosed to the accused nor to the court. Now, absolutely fine. This kind of opinion in US, but I must tell you, in India we talk about fair justice and we talk about disclosure. We always talk about, after the decision of Maneka Gandhi, we talk about that the procedure which is followed for depriving any person of his life or personal liberty has to be fair, just, and reasonable. Whether procedural fairness will be followed when we totally depend upon the technology, it is a very, very important question. And that is why in India, the Supreme Court in number of cases considered certain questions. I can just mention those questions. Is the decision making transparent so that the court can determine how the black box reached the outcome it did? What steps were taken to monitor outcomes arising from machine learning? Was the integrity and quality of the data appropriate for the purpose for which it was intended? Was the data used representative, or does it promote bias and or discrimination? Was the algorithm appropriately designed to guard against unintended outcomes? So we can imagine all this. And here only I would just like to refer to another very important aspect, as I refer to accountability. Now, accountability comes later. First, we talk about the liability. Like if I just talk about tortious liability, liability in tort. Like if we talk about tort of negligence, there we refer to contributory negligence also. So, and at the same time, we talk about the vicarious liability issue of concept of vicarious liability. Now, who will be liable? Who developed it? Who is using it? Who is operating it? Or whether the technology itself, I say artificial intelligence, computers, robots, can we make them liable? So, number of issues are there which are still pending before us, and these are still to be questioned before we become totally dependent on technology, because we really love using the softwares, going online, doing everything online, and we talk about that we must have digital world, but virtual world. But apart from technical issues, legal issues, we must think of psychological and emotional issues also. What will happen to the society? What will happen to the social bonds, family bonds, relationships, emotions? On the one hand, we always advise that we have to be, not only our IQ level should increase, there must be increase in the emotional quotient, adversity quotient, adaptability quotient. Now, how would we be able to manage with the machines, technology? And I'll just conclude. I can share with you that I'm a poet by heart. So I'll just recite my own poem on this issue of technology, artificial intelligence. कैसे कहूँ और कैसे दोहराऊं? कैसे कहूँ और कैसे दोहराऊं? अपनी बुद्धि को कृत्रिमता का पहरावा पहनाओ, एहसास से आभास का सफर कर असलियत छोड़ स्वप्निल हो जाओ। I just want to forget what is the reality. I just want to dream. क्यों कहूं और क्यों दोहराऊं, क्यों कहूं और क्यों दोहराऊं, मशीनों की काबिलियत पाऊं, फिर क्यों अपना मस्तिष्क थकाऊं, बस एक पासवर्ड ही याद कर पाऊं। क्या कहूं और क्या दोहराऊं, क्या कहूं और क्या दोहराऊं, थाम कलम नहीं अब जादू दिखाऊं, थाम कलम नहीं अब अपना जादू दिखाऊं, अंगुलियों से केवल बटन ही दबाऊं। तारीफें लिखाई आज भूल जाऊं, किधर कहूं और किधर दोहराऊं, किधर कहूं और किधर दोहराऊं। न जाने कब किसी रोबोट को राखी बांधाऊं, न जाने कब किस रोबोट को राखी बांधाऊं, किसी वर्चुअल इमेज से 7 फेरे ले आऊं, बेजान मशीन से करा कन्यादान, बटन दबा डोली में बैठ जाऊं। आज इस वर्चुअल सम्मेलन में डिजिटल भावनाएं ढूंढ लाऊं, क्योंकि डिजिटल सखियां मैं बनाऊं, आज शायद नव जीवन की ओर चल पाऊं और शायद पॉजिटिव भ्रष्टाचार और झूठ से छूट जाऊं। ऐ खुदा, ऐ खुदा इतनी सी मेहर करना मुझ पे, ऐ खुदा इतनी सी मेहर करना मुझ पे, ये कृत्रिमता का दिया अपने हाथ से जलाऊं या बुझाऊं। That means control should remain in our hands only. Thank you. God bless all of us.
Thank you so much, ma'am. On behalf of the entire Integral family, I would like to thank you for your gracious presence and influential message. It will be great pleasure for us to listen to you again in our future events. Finally, the moment has arrived to call upon the person who has worked hard with all the positivity to make this event a grand success. I feel immense pleasure to invite our organizing chair, Dr. Mohammed Faisal sir, Head Computer Application Department, to introduce the plans for the validation. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Nasha. A very good afternoon to all. It's a privilege and moment of great honor to extend word of thanks to all those who have contributed to make this international conference on emerging trends in technology and its impact on law, organized by the Department of Faculty of Law and Department of Computer Application, a grand success. On behalf of the Department of Computer Application and Faculty of Law, and on my own behalf, I, Dr. Mohammed Faisal, Head Department of Computer Application, would like to extend my gratitude to our Honorable Founder and Chancellor, Professor Syed Wasim Akhtar Saab, Pro-Chancellor Dr. Syed Nadeem Akhtar, Vice-Chancellor Professor Javed Masarra Saab, Registrar Professor Haris Siddiqui, Dean Faculty of Computer Application, Professor Tiusmani, for always motivating and providing a platform where we can conduct and continue such activities in online and offline mode. As we come to an end of this fruitful international conference, I am very pleased to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the international and national speakers from various universities for accepting the invitation and presiding over this conference, sharing their valuable experience and expertise. In particular, I will thank Professor Faizan Mustafa, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Nalsar University of Law, Hyderabad, and Professor Nishtha Jaswal, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Himachal Pradesh National Law University, Shimla. We surely appreciate that you have taken time off your busy schedules and for your invaluable contribution. I'm also thankful to Dr. Pawan Duggal, Advocate, Supreme Court of India, Founder and Chairman, International Commission of Cyber Security Law, and Professor Celestine, Professor, School of Creative Technologies, University of Bolton, UK, for their technical talks and guiding the participants in the right direction. I would also like to thank my counterpart, Organizing Chair, Dr. Naseem Ahmed Jafri, Dean Faculty of Law, for this international conference and his contribution and guidance to make this international conference a resounding success. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to conveners Dr. Abhishek Kumar Singh and Dr. Tasneem Ahmed. I'm also thankful to the organizing secretaries, Dr. Yashveen Ali, Faculty of Law, and Mrs. Nashra Javed, Faculty of Computer Application, Integral University, Lucknow. I'm also thankful to the distinct technical chairs, Dr. Sandeep Kumar Nayak and Mr. Brijesh Kumar Yadav, for their valuable efforts. I take this opportunity to thank all the members of the steering committee, technical committee, student committee, and review committee who have given their precious time in the organization of this international conference and making it a grand success. I'm also thankful to all the keynote speakers, session managers, session chairs, technical supports, and student volunteers for skillfully coordinating the technical sessions. I also acknowledge the contribution of all the authors who have presented papers in international conference. Last but not the least, I thank all the participants for showing their interest in this program. I once again thank everyone for making this program successful. Thank you for joining us and have a nice day.
That concludes a remarkable, memorable, and knowledgeable valedictory session of this conference. On behalf of both the departments, I promise that this may be the end of this conference, but undoubtedly, this is a new beginning. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rasha.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, all the speakers, for today's valedictory session.